Kim, how you doing?
Good, Max. I'm so excited to chat with you today.
I'm super excited to talk about this one. I think also like a bit selfishly, I'm really excited to talk about this one because there's been many times where I've had to go way over the top and above and beyond to build. You can build anything in HubSpot these days, right? Which is a good thing. It's a blessing and it's a curse, right? Because then you end up spending a lot of time building those things. And I will say, I have built my fair share of this is how you could do this giant convoluted speaker onboarding management system inside of HubSpot because it's an object and it exists, right? And like now I'm just going to say, duh, go use arrows so you don't have to do that. So selfishly, I'm very excited that we got together and did this because for whatever reason in my brain, it didn't immediately go to arrows before and it really should have this entire time. And I would have saved a lot of time and saved a lot of heartache for myself. Anyway. We're here to talk about sponsor and speaker management. And folks, if you're joining us from home in the chat, please go ahead and just kind of let us know where you're tuning in from. And I don't know what you had for breakfast. It's 11. I guess breakfast is still fresh in your minds. But anyway, let's go ahead and dive into it. Kim, are you ready to get started?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Let's do it. We're born ready. Born ready, okay? So welcome to Wrangle the Roster. How Event Hapily and Arrows streamlines your event and speaker sponsor onboarding in HubSpot, right? Oh, Caleb, how you doing? You can see Caleb is representing Kansas City in the chat, one of our favorite customers ever. We are going to go ahead and dive into things here. Again, we're talking about speakers and sponsors. Just to lay down a little bit of an agenda for you, we'll introduce our hosts here if you're not familiar with myself or Kim. We're going to talk about the struggles of speaker and sponsor onboarding inside of HubSpot. And if you're wondering, what does that even mean? Don't worry. We'll set the picture up for you and explain it all. And then we're going to talk about how Event Hapily and Arrows, and really actually show you in a live demo of how they are best friends, not only in real life, but in your HubSpot portal as well, especially if you are someone doing event management in HubSpot. And then we'll open it up to questions at the end. So for folks in the chat, I can see we got plenty of people in the chat. Let's go ahead and introduce ourselves because I am seeing a lot of names in the chat that I'm not super familiar with. And so I'll kind of introduce myself real quick. So, hey, everybody, my name is Max. I'm the chief evangelist at this company called Hapily. We build apps on HubSpot that do a lot of different things. Today, we're focusing on our Event Hapily app, which I'll tell you about in a little bit. But yeah, I'm basically the one here that screams about our products really loud on LinkedIn. I'm a 7-year HubSpot alum, so I know HubSpot better than I know myself. I love talking about this kind of stuff, and I'm blessed to be able to do that in my job here at Hapily. And then I'm joined by my esteemed colleague and good friend, Kim Hacker. Kim, do you want to introduce yourself and tell people what you do, who you do it for?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name's Kim. I'm COO at Arrows. We are also a HubSpot app partner. So like Max said, besties with Hapily. And we've been in the HubSpot ecosystem for, I guess, close to 4 years now. And basically all of our customers are HubSpot users. We are deeply connected to the CRM. So that's why we're kind of excited to show you how all of this works together in HubSpot today.
Yeah, it's going to be sweet. And Kim, do you want to introduce people to Arrows that don't know?
Yes.
Like
lots
the
of
folks
names
who've been living under an app rock and have not heard of Arrows yet. Talk to
yes, lots of names in the chat that I'm not familiar with. So nice to meet all of you. But so Arrows, so we have 2 products at Arrows, but we're going to be focusing on our customer onboarding plan product. We also do digital sales rooms. And I will say the primary use case for Arrows is typically like B2B SaaS onboarding or any type of customer or client onboarding process. So it's basically like a customer onboarding checklist. But today we're going to be focusing on onboarding sponsors and speakers. And so we actually used Arrows ourselves. So when we did a big event with a bunch of sponsors and speakers last year, and we used Arrows to onboard our sponsors and speakers, and it was really helpful. And I kind of experienced what it's like to work with different teams and speakers and wrangle all of that stuff. So definitely excited to show you how all of that works today.
Kim, can I ask a question?
Sure.
I had my start at HubSpot being an implementation specialist doing customer onboarding. And we had I'm going to put in heavy quotation marks, the pleasure of using the projects tool to onboard people. And, I'm not saying it was a nightmare, but I'm not saying it wasn't a nightmare. It was a nightmare. Is HubSpot using Arrows to do onboarding for HubSpot customers now?
HubSpot is now, using arrows to onboard their own customers. Yeah.
Great.
So
I'm
really
so
exciting.
happy for them that they're using it now, and I didn't get to use it back then. That's great.
Yeah. The thing
That's awesome. No, that is a huge. That's really huge that you guys are now like the onboarding like app partner for them. That's like really cool. Yeah. So just quick aside for anyone here watching this. Yes, we're talking about speakers and sponsors, but if you are a company that does any kind of customer onboarding in any flavor at all, and your services and support teams and whoever's working on a HubSpot, Arrows is a exquisite product for that use case. So please go check it out, even if it's not for the speaker and sponsor stuff. I just have to put that plug in there. I'm a big fan is what I'm trying to say, but I'm also a big fan of this thing called Event Hapily. Folks, if you have not heard of Event Hapily before, Event Hapily is a app that we built for HubSpot. We're still building it. The roadmap runs deep for this one. There is a lot left to go, and we're really kind of just getting started in the grand scheme of things, even though it already does an absolutely ridiculous amount of stuff. We're turning HubSpot into an event management platform is the easiest way to think about it, right? So HubSpot by itself, it's a CRM. It's not built to do event management, which is why a lot of people struggle to do event management on HubSpot. And again, that's fine. It wasn't built to be an event management tool. The thing that's funny about it, though, is that it is really good at all of the things that those event management point solutions are bad at. But what it's bad at is the one thing that a lot of event management systems are good at, right? Which is typically driving registration, managing all of that, and attendance tracking, a lot of the other nuanced stuff that goes around it. So what we do here at Event Hapily, to kind of give like a little bit of a kind of 10,000 foot view, is we inject all of the functionality that HubSpot is missing to be really good at event management. And we add it in there so you can then use all of your favorite tools in HubSpot that touch all the different parts of your event management platform, right? The cool thing that we found out is that managing your events inside of your CRM actually makes all the sense in the world, because your events are directly tied to your sales efforts, your customer service efforts, your marketing efforts. It's all related, right? And to be able to have your event data, your registrants, the representations of the events themselves, the performance metrics, your deals and revenue all getting tied up together in it and orchestrated in this way that really makes sense. It's really only something you can do within a CRM platform. And since HubSpot is the most flexible thing on the face of the planet when it comes to, the way you do your records and the way you set up your automation and like all this kind of stuff, especially way more flexible than any of the point solution event management tools out there, it ends up being a really cool place to manage your events. And part of managing events, especially if you are producing your own events that, may get a little bit more complex than just your run-of-the-mill customer happy hour or, whatever it may be. Sometimes you're running bigger events that have maybe multiple sessions that people can attend, and they have speakers that are speaking at these events. And maybe it's, a big full day event with a bunch of sessions and a bunch of speakers. Maybe it could be something as simple as a webinar that you're doing. You might have a bunch of different speakers that are speaking at your event, and that's how you're driving a lot of registration and providing really good content and knowledge and expertise at these events that people go to that you work so hard to put on. It's also very possible that you need a little help putting on these events from a financial standpoint. So you start to bring in different sponsors, and those sponsors might have different levels and a sales process into getting that sponsorship and things like that, right? And those are all things that you can easily manage on HubSpot. Think about a lot of the stuff that we already do on HubSpot with something as simple as like a deal. What do you do with a deal record in HubSpot? Well, you collaborate with other people on how you're selling the deal. You track different steps into closing the deal. You hold information about the deal. You do the same thing for the events that you're putting on, the same thing for the speakers that are coming there and the sponsors that you're bringing on and anything and everything that's associated to your event, right? So HubSpot ends up being this really great place to do a lot of planning and coordination and things like that when you are running your events and using HubSpot as sort of the backbone to leverage all of that, right? So Kim, let's go ahead and start diving into it. And we'll go through it. As I'm going through the demo, Kim, if anything pops up and you're like, oh, I got a question about that, just interrupt me. It's totally cool.
I definitely
Same
will.
thing. Yeah. Same thing goes for folks in the chat. I want to keep this as interactive as possible. All right. So let me lay the land here. All right. And we'll get into the place where we start to think about how we're doing speaker and sponsor management. Step one, just to kind of like understand sort of like the data structure we're working with, right? When you install Event Happily, there's a lot of things that get installed. There's a lot of cool doodads, whistles, CMS modules, workflow actions, all these like fun things. But the big thing to kind of know is that we have these things called events, registrants, sessions, speakers, and sponsors. Speakers and sponsors are optional objects that you can install from the settings. You won't see them when you just first initially install it. But really, to get to these speakers and sponsors, what we want to talk about first are these event records. We're not going to worry about registrants today. We're not going to worry about sessions. We're just going to talk about the events themselves and where speakers and sponsors come in, right? So event records, these are meant to be representations of the actual events that you're doing. Event records, we use custom objects instead of the HubSpot marketing events object, just because you can customize custom objects, obviously much more than sort of that set in stone marketing events object. But that's why. So if like you're wondering like, hey, Max, why don't you guys use the marketing events object? This is why. So you can customize it and do a lot of cool stuff like this. So your event record really kind of represents the event itself. And this is where you can hold all the information about your event so you can keep everything straight. Obviously, you can log activities to the event. So if you're emailing your vendors back and forth, trying to coordinate catering or booking a hotel room for someone or whatever it may be, right? Just like you're logging communications about anything you're working on in HubSpot, you can do that for your events. You can, of course, create tasks for yourselves, go buy 1,000 balloons, go hire a DJ, go do whatever. And then, of course, you can use all sorts of objects and stuff like that to manage your vendors, this, that, and the other thing. But a really cool thing that we do with Event Happily is that we auto-generate your pages for you for things like registration. So what's really neat is when you build one of these event records without you really doing anything in HubSpot CMS, we do it all in the background, you get these registration pages that automatically pull information in about your event. They've got a form that'll automatically register someone for it. As you can see here, I've got a really, really, really fancy feature enabled that's actually letting someone use a HubSpot form to, sign up for individual sessions. It's even showing which ones are full. Again, that is a whole nother webinar that we can go over, right? But a big thing we've had a lot of customers want to do is be able to show the speakers and the sponsors of an event or of a session, right? And so here, now, granted, my design skills aren't the best, so please bear with me here. I've got like a pretty basic layout, all right? We've got these speaker cards over here for people who are speaking at the event. And then down here at the bottom, we have this CMS module also that's bringing in sponsors, right? Now, out of the box, kind of what we help you do is make it really easy for you to take your speakers and your sponsor objects and get them to show up on your page. Well, how does that work? It's pretty easy. When you're on the actual event record itself, you can see that you have these speaker objects and these sponsor objects. So if we were in a situation where, hey, C3PO no longer can speak at the event, it's not a matter of me going and getting in touch with my developer and saying, hey, you got to take C3PO off the speaker of the, on the registrant page. Literally all I can do is I can come into here and I can just hit remove association, right? And just by removing that speaker from this event, what's really neat is if I come back to my landing page or my registration page here and give it a refresh, we'll see that C3PO is no longer there. I didn't have to send an email to my developer. I didn't have to wait. I didn't have to edit a CMS page. All I did was just simply remove the speaker from the page itself. And then same thing goes down here. Let's say, Associate, one of our sponsors, decides to upgrade their sponsorship to like a diamond level sponsorship. Right? I can just go and change that in here. And then all of a sudden we can see that those pages get updated. So speakers and sponsors, like out of the box, we really help with saying, hey, you've got your data and your objects inside of HubSpot. If you associate it to your events, they'll show up on the pages. It's pretty simple, right? So you can probably already imagine the things that you can do with workflows and automation and like all this other fun stuff. Now, here's the deal. Getting the speaker to show up on a web page is probably the easiest part of what it means to actually get a speaker for your event, right? And get them to come, actually talk at your event. So another thing that we get asked a lot about is, hey, since I'm representing the speaker and representing the sponsor inside of HubSpot as like an object, what can you do to help me onboard that speaker, to onboard that sponsor? Because when you have speakers and sponsors at your events, there's a lot of things you have to do in order to get ready for that, right? That speaker needs to give you a headshot. That speaker needs to give you their bio, tell you what their job is. Maybe they have a slideshow or presentation that they're going to be giving that you want to approve ahead of time or make sure you have so you can load it into the projector or whatever it may be. And collecting all this data, while sure, it's possible to do in HubSpot, and I've had to build some pretty convoluted, crazy things for whatever reason. I don't know why I wasn't thinking, hey, just go talk to Arrows. You can do it, but it's difficult to set up. You got to start dealing with, forms, passing data into custom objects and like all this other crazy convoluted stuff that no one wants to deal with, right? There's an easier solution out there, and I'm sure you know where I'm going with this. And that is this fantastic tool that Kim's going to be telling us about in a little bit called Arrows. So, Kim, I have a problem. C3PO dropped out and can no longer speak at Paleta Fest 2025. And I need you to fill in. Are you up for the task?
I'm up for it.
Okay. So this is what I'm going to be doing. All right. And this is like the same process you see us kind of go through here. Same idea for like sponsors, right? If Arrows maybe wanted to come and sponsor Paleta Fest 2025, right? And we do steal this Paleta or whatever it may be, right? We can do something like that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the process of getting another speaker here. So I'm going to go ahead and hit add. And I am going to create a new speaker. Now, all I know is Kim's name. I don't know anything else about Kim. I don't have pictures of Kim that I can use for Kim's headshot. And I don't want to just grab something random off LinkedIn. I want Kim to be able to give us all this information. Okay. Because again, I don't have it and I need it and I don't want to make assumptions. So I'm going to go ahead and create a hapily speaker object here, and I get taken to a record page just like I would in any other situation where you're creating a record in HubSpot. And now I could just come in here and maybe get on a phone call with Kim and fill out all this information and have her like email me a bunch of stuff and have it lost in my inbox and have her like manually bring it. I don't want to do any of that. Okay. I don't want to build any weird HubSpot forms that are going to pass data into this record. I want it to be an easy experience for me, the admin. But I also want it to be a good experience for the speaker, for Kim, who's going to come speak at our event. And I don't want to make it hard for Kim to have to do that. I want to make that speaker onboarding process seamless and easy and enjoyable. On my speaker objects here, and this will be the same for a sponsor object, for example, we've got Arrows onboarding plans activated, right? So we can actually keep track of the entire process of getting Kim onboarded. So what I'm going to do, and Kim, tell me if I'm doing any of this wrong, is I'm going to go create an onboarding plan. And I'm going to put Kim's name in as the customer. And then I'm going to select a specific template that I've built to help onboard our speakers into our event here, this Paleta Fest 2025, because I might have one plan for this event, another plan for my webinars, another plan for some other event that I'm doing. It may not be the same exact experience, the same exact process, right? So I can set up different templates for different situations. Let's go ahead and choose Paleta Fest 2025 speaker onboarding, and I'm going to go ahead and create the plan, and we get this nice, beautiful UI extension that pops up here that is giving us the beginning of our onboarding plan. Kim, I'm going to pass it over to you to talk to the folks about what's actually happening here.
Cool. Thanks for setting this up. Yeah. So, and I was actually going to say, I kind of forgot about this, but I'm actually speaking at Inbound. And so I'm kind of going through I'm going through a speaker onboarding process right now. And I was just thinking of how much there is to do. So obviously they need our information very early in terms of title, what you want for your bio, all of those kind of things that get added. But there's also things like submitting your final slides, booking your hotel rooms, joining a Slack channel. I think there's like a WhatsApp group going now. So there's so many different things that are involved beyond just like getting the speaker information onto the website. So that's what we'll show you today and highlight. But there's so many things that need to happen. And so I think having one place where you can go and reference and see this is everything that is needed. So
Kim, I have to ask, is Inbound using Arrows to onboard you as a speaker?
Inbound is not using Arrows to onboard me as a speaker.
How
I will tell you, I wish they were.
How dare they? Next year, we'll get them.
Maybe next year, now that they've seen this. Okay, cool. So basically Arrows, I kind of mentioned it earlier, but it's basically a customer or speaker facing plan that shows a bunch of different tasks that need to be done. And I'll show you in a second how it connects to HubSpot, but it connects very deeply. As Max just showed, you can connect this to a custom object or a deal or a ticket or a service record inside HubSpot. And so let's say I'm the speaker, or I guess I was invited as the speaker here. And so I can come in and we can take a look at a couple of the tasks here. So this is an example of signing a speaker agreement. For example, this is a PandaDoc agreement that's embedded right into the task. So I can come in, I can actually interact with this, and I can mark the task as done right from the Arrows task. And then next is uploading some of the information that is needed for the website. So I can come in and drag my headshot into here. We'll show you what this looks like in HubSpot in a second, but this is uploaded. I'll mark this as done. My next task is filling out my bio. So it's already got my name in there because Max has already added me. So these properties are connected to HubSpot. So since Max already added me, it already knows my name. I can always edit this. So it's read and write from HubSpot back into HubSpot. So if I wanted to say, let's say I wanted to say Kimberly, actually, I can add my job title, company name, and then I will throw a little speaker bio in here. And then I'll submit that. It'll automatically complete my task. And then this was really quick, Max. I'll toss it back to you really quick so you can see how fast that gets updated inside HubSpot and then what that does on Event Happily too.
Yeah. Okay. So what's funny is literally as you were doing that, I was watching this like in real time, like update just kind of like magically, which is crazy. So like over here, I can see the onboarding plan. I can see the full progress of it over here. And then it gives me this awesome sort of overview of how much of it's like actually done, who the coordinator is. And then like, here are all the little bits of information that were given in that onboarding plan. I'm just seeing it directly inside my speaker record. And then if you look over in here to the left, all of those things that were connected to properties are automatically in there. Like I didn't have to do anything, which is like really cool. Kim, it is so just so I know, because the speaker onboarding is like a two-way street, right? There's stuff that we're sending to a speaker and like they're filling it out, right? And giving us information and saying, yeah, I've done this, yeah, I've done that. But there's also a concept of like tasks that your team has to complete too as well. Can you like touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. So you can set up internal tasks inside Arrow so that you can also manage it. So you would see the same kind of thing where on the app card inside HubSpot, you would be able to see that your task is up next. Or you can also say, we have completion actions inside Arrows where you can say, once this task is complete, set a HubSpot task or create a task inside HubSpot for your team to do work. So it just depends on where your team wants to manage their tasks. They can do it inside Arrows or they can do it inside HubSpot.
That's awesome. So I could have just like a silly example here. I could have let's say my team is responsible for like booking the hotels for the speakers. It could be that like they give us, oh, tell us when your flight's coming in. Like they give us like their flight information and I go look that up and be like, all right, cool. You're near this airport or whatever. And like I have a task where I'm responsible for going and like booking your hotel room and like sending you the info or something like that. Right.
Yeah. Yep, exactly.
That is super cool.
Definitely designed to be collaborative. So like the sponsor or speaker facing version that we were just looking at is designed to be super easy for them to access, see what needs to be done. There are due dates and reminder emails saying, hey, you're behind on this or this needs to be done now. But it's designed to be collaborative. So you can see here, you're opening that inside HubSpot. So you can actually come in, you can see what they've done. You can add a comment, nudge them, anything like that. Right from HubSpot too.
I love that. And can a lot of these, if I'm completing these tasks, can that also like fire off workflows and stuff like that in HubSpot, either by a property changing or is there a more direct connection to the workflows tool? Like, how does that work?
So a couple things. We sync over 60 data points into HubSpot about what's happening in the plan. So if there are overdue tasks, if there's a current task information, there's lots of data that you can use to trigger workflows, set up reports, set up Slack notifications, anything like that. We also have workflow actions. So this kind of gets into like, let's say you have a ton of speakers. Inbound has 240 speakers or something like that this year.
Yep.
You can set up a workflow automation to automatically send these out to all of the speakers that are involved. So what you just did was create it manually from the record, which is super easy and fine, but it can happen automatically. You can also segment it out. So if you have different speakers on different stages that need different things, you can use a workflow action, branch it, and then send the right template out to the right people.
Got it. So I could have set it up so it's all right. We would do like a speaker object like workflow. We could say if the speaker was created and the speaker is associated to an event with the name of Paleta Fest,
Yep.
then send the speaker basically that on or create that onboarding plan for them.
Yep.
And like
And you can
send it.
automatically send it as well.
Oh, God, so I could have saved all those clicks at the beginning too. Well, I mean, again, we're
Good
doing it
stuff.
for one person here, so it's not a big deal. But that's really good to know, especially if you're managing like a ton of people, right? Like we've worked with some like big like
Yeah.
events that have a lot of people, and the speaker management is really kind of like key to it. But again, it takes a lot of legwork to be able to like present someone this sort of like elegant, like really nice experience going through it that also is like a lot of interconnectivity between HubSpot, right? Because usually you're just doing some weird stuff with forms. It's
Yeah.
the best way I can describe how people have been, dealing with this up until now. So that's super cool. So we can see here, I've got, so Kim's name got updated right here, right? So preferred naming, spelling in there. Job title got updated. We got the bio in there too as well. I don't have a property for presentation or anything, but if you have a PowerPoint that you upload or something along those lines, you'd be able to do it. And so if we take this same idea and think about sponsors, oftentimes there's money getting transacted there, right? So like you could totally maybe have one of your deal, what do you call it? Sales rooms do it. Why is my sales rooms? You could easily have a sales room set up for a deal that is like creating a sponsorship, right? And being able to like, share collateral, whether it's like uploading information about booth graphics or, signing like a contract for a sponsorship, whatever it may be. Guys, at the end of the day, we're talking about putting data into HubSpot objects, right? So like you could take this same flavor of create object, build this wonderful plan that makes it super easy for someone to onboarding, and then take the same experience, tweak the contents of it, and do it for a sponsor object, right? And do the same exact thing and really give it a much better process in terms of collecting all that information. But let's actually see if this worked. So if I go back into Paleta Fest now, in theory, if HubSpot's cooperating today, I should be able to go onto our registration page. Oh, look at that. There's Kimberly Hacker right there, ready to be a speaker. And we all did it while we were on a webinar, which is amazing. Very cool. Kim, thank you for walking us through that. I think this is something that's going to be unbelievably helpful for a lot of current customers that we have, but certainly anyone who's looking into Event Hapily that also needs a much tighter experience around managing their speaker onboarding.
Yeah, I think showing all of this is it's just, you were touching on this earlier, but I think managing events in HubSpot is not like it's not intuitive that that's a place that you would go. You're like, oh, I'm managing my deals or, possibly support in HubSpot. It's not obvious that we can do that or it's possible in HubSpot. And obviously Event Hapily does a ton of that, but I think it's even helpful to see all of this stuff. Like it's possible and it's actually like super easy and so flexible and gives you a much better, because you can connect multiple apps into HubSpot that you might already be using. Like you maybe are using Arrows for sales or customer success or something, and you can use that same tool and connect it to have this really seamless process inside the same place.
Yes. The thing that always stuck with me is two things that always stuck with me is at some point during being here at Hapily, Connor said this sentence of putting two different apps together inside HubSpot create a lot of these like 1 + 1 = 3 moments. Is that because if you think about it, what we just did is we just birthed a whole other tool.
Yeah.
Because like our tool, sure, we can get headshots and speakers to show up on your web page. And sure, you guys do this like really great onboarding. But what we just did is we just built an entirely new app by connecting these two things together on HubSpot. And we just built
really easily, like there was
speaker
no
onboarding platform.
Yeah.
There are people who pay asinine amount of money just for that in a third party system that's not even connected to any of this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's wild. Like HubSpot provides this sort of like ecosystem and canvas to build entirely different pieces of software, just combining two other apps that don't have anything to do with each other. Technically, there's no Arrows integration with Event Hapily. There's no, anything on the other way. We just happen to operate in HubSpot, and thus we can create cool things like this.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. The other thing too, to kind of like double down on your point of, it makes sense to manage your events in HubSpot. There was another person, Chris Carolyn, who said this thing that really stuck with me a while ago. because we had a lot of conversations and a lot of you in the chat who are doing events. I think a question you've probably asked yourself is like, how do I, manage, or how do I report on the ROI of my events in HubSpot? We keep hearing this event ROI thing over and over and over and over and over again, right? So return on investment, for anyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about. It just happens to be extremely easy to do things like, tracking your expenses for your event right inside of HubSpot. So like when we talk about investment, well, all of a sudden we can track what that investment is inside of HubSpot. And like oftentimes when we're thinking about return, well, what's the big way that we're measuring that in HubSpot? Well, I mean, typically we're looking at deals. Deals are the monetary return. And so, we have these cool features that will like automatically associate deals to events and help you do some like attribution and stuff like that. But what's really neat is that since you have all the data in one place, it makes it trivially easy to do things like event ROI and stuff like that, right? Now, I'm not just doing this to kind of like flex on a feature. I'm kind of trying to reinforce the point that you were making, in that a lot of these things, such as tracking ROI, becomes a lot easier because you have the R and the I in a single place. Just like tracking your speakers and sponsor management stuff ends up being a lot easier when you're not using some other random spreadsheet that only Susie has access to do this process, or you're not using some other third-party system that like never would even think about having integration into your CRM to do this kind of stuff. You can do so much on HubSpot if you just combined the peanut butter and chocolate, or the peanut butter and jelly that two different apps kind of bring to the table. It's really cool stuff. Yeah. Sweet. Let's move on. So we got about like 20 minutes left here. Why don't we move on to some questions? Unless, Kim, there was anything else you wanted to kind of throw out there into the wild?
No, I don't think so. Let's do some questions.
Do we have any questions on the table, or anyone in the chat? We're looking at the chat. So if you got questions, you can throw it in right now and we'll pivot. But it looks like we do got a couple here that were sent in. All right, I'm going to read this one, but this sounds like it's for you, Kim. Can I create different onboarding plans for different sponsor tiers or speaker types?
Yes. Yeah. So this is sort of back to what I was saying about the setting up a workflow action in HubSpot. Is you can basically say, if they are a diamond sponsor, then give them this onboarding plan. Or, you can really customize it. So you can have different templates inside arrows, and then you can customize what they get. There's like getting into the weeds a little bit. You can customize it even more per template based on any HubSpot properties. So for example, if you have maybe we have one onboarding plan for PaletaFest 2025, but you want to segment like only this phase is shown for people with a diamond sponsorship level, you can customize that based on HubSpot properties too.
Oh, so like same plan, but like conditionally different experiences within it.
Yes.
And that can be based on HubSpot data?
HubSpot properties, yes. Only based on HubSpot properties, yes. So basically anything that's shown on the attached HubSpot record, which we can connect to HubSpot or to custom objects. So any of those records that you were showing us, Max, we can customize the plans based on that.
So if we were even looking at that as just like a SaaS onboarding kind of example too, like you could have something where it's like you have your one sort of like master onboarding plan for everybody, but depending on the level of whatever that they got, so like even level of sponsorship or level of software, if we're using like a software onboarding as an example, right? That experience of the same plan could be different depending on other information that you have.
Yeah, or you can imagine it with like for HubSpot, for example, they can have a plan for every customer, but they can include a phase for Marketing Hub if they're using Marketing Hub, or Ops Hub, and it's excluded if you're not purchasing that. So we can take a look at what they're purchasing and then say, you purchased Ops Hub, we're going to give you this phase so you can see all of these tasks related to that.
Got it. So if I was like a sponsor, we could have one onboarding plan, but then it could be like, all right, depending on the sponsorship level that you got, if it's like the basic one, all we need is like graphics we're putting on the website.
Yep.
But if it's a booth sponsorship one, we need you to send in booth graphics. But why would we ask for booth graphics for someone who has a lower level sponsorship, for example?
Yep. Exactly.
That's cool. That's sick. I love a good conditional feature.
Oh my gosh. Right? It's my favorite feature in Arrows, and we don't talk about, I was actually just thinking about this yesterday. We don't talk about it enough, but it is so powerful and so fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, now that HubSpot got conditional, I mean, do you know the tattoo debacle? Kim?
No.
Oh no. I have to go get a tattoo at Inbound of the HubSpot logo.
Wait, I feel like this sounds familiar, but tell me.
Yeah. So speaking of conditional things, I made a very public bet on the Monday morning live show that I do with Kyle every Monday. That if you guys don't watch the Monday morning briefing with me and Kyle Jepson, go watch it. I basically said, if HubSpot does conditional record middle panels and right panels and conditional tabs by inbound, I'll get a HubSpot tattoo. And then they did it, and they met all three of those requirements. And now I'm totally screwed and I need to get one, because I didn't think in a million years it was going to happen, because it didn't happen for 10 whatever years since the first like left-hand conditional stuff. Anyway, we love conditional things, including onboarding plans. Do we have additional? Oh, there we go. We got one right here. Is there a way to track who's falling behind on deliverables without manually checking? This is I think an onboarding plan one. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I can maybe show, well, we don't have
Yeah,
it.
sure. I mean, whatever you want to do.
Yeah. Well, I can just share. I can just talk about it.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So I think I kind of mentioned this earlier, but we have due dates inside the Arrows tasks. So every task will have a due date. You can set it based on, this is another cool thing. You can set the due dates based on the event date, for example. So you can say slide decks are always due 30 days before the event happens, or this is always due this many days before the event date. So again, that the due dates can be based on any HubSpot date or like the plan start date, anything like that.
So all the date stuff's dynamic.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can set those hard deadlines, and then Arrows will nudge the sponsors automatically to say this is due on this date, this is coming up, and then you will be able to track that too. Lots of different ways, but because we're syncing so many data points in, a lot of times we'll see people will set up like pipeline tags or set up workflows to say if there's an overdue task, then send this email automatically or whatever you want to do. But there's so many things you can do to manage that, but none of it should be manual.
Are those little nudges like coming from like Arrows, like emailing the person, or is it all manual stuff you set up in workflows?
So automatically Arrow sends nudge emails.
Okay. So that's great.
And reminder. Yes.
Because and that's, guys, that is so much nicer than setting up little reminders for every tiny thing in a HubSpot workflow, right? Because again, it's, well, what if this one has this task and this one doesn't have this task? So they got to set up a whole other branch that's doing all this other stuff and email it. No, dude, just let the onboarding plan actually take care of all those little things. And that way it stays more dynamic. You're doing less workflow management, and you can just kind of rely on that thing, and it'll send them a nice email that gets them right into that task so they can complete it. Versus you having to figure out 1,000 different email templates for any situation you can imagine building it in HubSpot. Yeah.
The idea is like you're setting all of this stuff up on the template level inside Arrows ahead of all of this. And then once you actually send them out, all of this stuff should be automated. So they're getting the nudges, the due dates are set, everything is personalized for whatever they need. So you shouldn't have to do a ton of manual wrangling once the plans are actually sent out.
Yeah. I sidebar for a second. I have a question for you. When that service object came out in HubSpot, did people just go nuts over getting Arrow's onboarding plans on it, or what? Because I feel like that object was made for you guys.
It kind of was. Yeah. It's perfect for post sales. So a lot of times people for post sales were using tickets, which is fine. And a lot of people do. Like we still have a lot of our customers that are using tickets for actual client onboarding. But the service object is like a perfect purpose-built spot for it.
It should just come with Arrows pre-installed, if we're being honest, when they're doing that. Anyway.
It's funny because it took us a bit of time. We were like, are people really going to use this? We didn't integrate with it immediately, but we had a few partners, a few of our HubSpot partners were like, this is critical. And as soon as we did it, everyone wanted to use the service object. So
You know what's actually really interesting that I thought of that I didn't even think of, like, for an angle for this thing that we totally could have done, is a lot of people that use Event Happily, they don't just use it for the process of, oh, we are hosting an event and we are doing pre-registration and we're producing the event ourselves. They do a lot of, we are going to a conference or we're going to a trade show and we're going to meet a bunch of people and we're going to do lead capture. That's like the typical motion, right? I know a lot of people on the internet these days don't love that word, but anyway, they do the whole lead capture thing. And in that case, like, I could totally see this being used as like a way to make sure that all of your employees that are attending, because we see some people roll deep with like big groups of
Mhm.
salespeople that they're bringing. You could totally use this as a way to make sure, did you book your tickets? Did you
Yeah.
book your hotel room? Did you do this? Submit your expenses, send us your receipts, do the, are you going and giving a talk? Give us the slides so we can
Yeah.
approve it, like all this kind of stuff. Have you seen people use it for internal stuff at all?
We have. In fact, like, not quite that I know of, but, like, a new employee onboarding is
Sure.
one that we see. It's not like I will say, like, our primary use case is client onboarding, and that is what
Yep.
we will always
It's your ride or
uh
die. Yeah.
exactly, 100%. But there are always people who kind of stretch the limits like that, which is awesome. And if you're managing, like, your new hire process or anything like that inside HubSpot, which is definitely possible, you can use arrows for that, the internal stuff like
Nice.
that too. We do it for our own new
Very
employees.
cool. Very cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I always like to give a nod to the folks that are we're going to a lot of trade shows,
Yeah,
we're going to a lot of
that's a
events
big
because it
thing.
is just as much, if not the same, it's the
Yeah.
same thing as the amount of people that we're serving that are really doing we host our own thing, we do our own registration, stuff like that. So
Yeah.
if that sounds like any of you in the chat, keep that in mind. All right, how flexible is the content they see? Can I personalize instructions per speaker or sponsor? That's interesting because that almost this sounds like it's taking it like a level deeper than conditional stuff, right? Or maybe it is the same thing. I'm not sure. What are your thoughts on this?
Sort of. So yeah, you can, I would say, like, super flexible. My mind goes to that, what we call dynamic branching, where you can, like, show and hide different things inside the arrows plan based on any HubSpot data, but you can also pull any HubSpot properties in. So you can, yes.
Oh,
So any HubSpot properties that are on the object, you can use in, like, dynamic text basically within the plan. So it can feel really personalized to basically
oh,
any data you want.
you could totally do something where when you create a speaker object, you could have sort of a multi-line text field or something in HubSpot where it's like personalized message to the speaker, right?
Hmm.
And the
Yep.
coordinator could just write, "Hey, so and so, we're so excited to have you at blah 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 blah. This is gonna help you do la 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 la." And that property that you make when you first initially create the speaker object is what it sounds could populate into, I don't know, a cover page or like the first
Yeah.
thing they see when
Yep.
they like open up the arrows plan, right? So you could
Yeah.
have that personal touch in there. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, basically we can connect any properties that are on the HubSpot object. We can connect in here, and then you can see here, I actually did something similar where I have a really short welcome message in the welcome card that gets sent to people when they first open it. And so I'm
Oh,
using it here. So it's, "Hey, first name, we're excited to have you join us," but you could have whatever you want in there, be totally customized. So then once it actually is live, it'll be filled with whatever that property value is.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, as long as you're, being really intentional around the properties that are required when you're building the object that you're going to then apply this onboarding plan to, you can totally bring in, not AI created, but like human generated text that's like a nice personal message for that person to keep it cute. I love that.
Yep. Yep,
That's
exactly.
sick.
Yeah.
So it's not just like writing data back into, I mean, it is writing data back into properties, but you can also use
Oh,
the
yeah.
data from your objects to create the experience and generate the content that shows up on it.
Yes,
Nice.
yes, 100%.
Cool. Can approved assets like headshots or logos automatically update our event landing page? Yes, that's kind of what I was showing. So, think of arrows as giving us that stuff, but it's up to you whether or not you upload that image or if you want to have some sort of like approval process it goes through before the sponsor becomes visible on the page. We do this a lot of the times with a lot of our objects in events and sessions and stuff, like those show up on like public listing pages, like kind of the same way that like your speakers and sponsors would show up on like a page itself. And a lot of our objects have these published yes, no, like Boolean true, false fields where when you change it to published equals yes, if you've configured it this way with your modules, that's when it'll actually be shown. So like you can work on the thing first and then sort of like publish it live to the world only after you're happy with it. So yeah, but in this case, what we did is, Kim entered the information and then it was just there. So like the way I have it configured, that's just live as soon as she gives it to me. But of course, you can build a little bit more of an approval process on top of that. Here we go. Can I reuse the same onboarding flow from one event to the next?
Yeah, as far as arrows is concerned, typically I would imagine that there's going to be some things that are customized, but you can, like, duplicate your existing template and then just use that again anytime.
Also, with what you showed me, though, it sounds like you could have one single template that then gets personalized from the name of the event. So,
Yeah.
something that
Yeah.
we have, I guess, how we would do it if we wanted to do a generic speaker onboarding that works across all of our events, but like when they go into it, they'd obviously want to see like the name of the event or something
Yeah,
like that.
exactly.
I guess the first question I would have for you, Kim, is like when you're pulling in data points, can you pull in data points from associated objects as well?
We cannot right now.
Okay, that's fine. So
Yeah.
all you need to do in this case, folks, is on your speaker record, right? You would literally just have a field called event name, set that up as a sync property to
Mhm.
the event that it's hooked up to, or you can just have a workflow that copies it over. That way you've got things like event name, or you could copy over anything like the venue address, the whatever from the associated event that the
Yeah.
speaker object's on at that moment, or the most recent one, however you want to set it up, because some people do like a speaker object per event. Some people have one speaker object associated to
Mm.
multiple events.
Yeah,
You could do it however you want, right? In some use cases, you go with one or the other. But in this case, as long as you're bringing over information from the event, you can then use it in those dynamic tokens you were talking about. So while it is one generic plan, when it's opened and created for that user, it's dynamically populated with context from that specific event. So it would say, we can't wait to have you at event name. And it would drop the event name in from that like field.
Yep.
So yeah, that's super cool. You totally could do something like that. Can onboarding activities be used as a trigger in other HubSpot workflows?
Yep. Yeah. So
Okay.
that's just the 60 data points that I keep calling out. But yeah,
Okay.
so there's so many different data points that you can use to trigger any kind of workflows.
Is it properties that we're updating, or are you also sending in like analytic events or custom events that like the workflow thing
There's
works on?
properties right now.
And that's fine. Yeah. So, and what's great about that, when we say other HubSpot workflows, I can only assume the person's asking like workflows of other objects. So,
Hmm.
since they're passing in properties, yes, you can, because you can do filters that go off of properties on associated objects, right?
Yep.
You can
Yep.
do,
Exactly.
there's 12 different ways to skin this cat here, but yeah, you totally could do something like that.
Yeah.
Cool. Can these plans trigger internal HubSpot tasks or Slack notifications when something's submitted or overdue? I think you said yes, but it's worth going into this. How do you guys do this stuff, Kim? Is it like a setting you set up in Arrows to automatically do it, or is it like a workflow you set up because something got modified by Arrows? I guess you
Both
could
are
do.
settings inside Arrow. So Slack notifications, we just have a Slack integration, so that'll automatically happen whether or not you do anything in HubSpot. But anytime someone uploads a file, completes a task, anything like that, it can notify the like coordinator of the plan individually inside Slack or to like a Slack channel. But I'll share my screen here for a second and share how
Yeah.
this works for setting it up. So this is like the editing side of the plan. So like me as the creator of the plan, this is how I set things up. But basically, in order to configure the HubSpot tasks, we would say, actually, let me actually show you this because this is pretty cool. I'm going to uncomplete this task for a second. And then on the back end, we'll set up this completion action. So we will create a HubSpot task when this task gets completed. And so
That's
let's
nice.
say approve data or whatever this is. And then we'll
The
save
good old
that.
approved data task. Yes.
Yeah. And then, okay, so I'm going to mark this task as done now. And then when we go into that HubSpot object, you'll see the task was created right away. So as soon as that task gets done in Arrows, it creates a HubSpot task. And my favorite part is that it'll note in the description that it was triggered by completing the fill out your bio task in Arrows. And you can open that up and it'll go directly to the task where it triggered that from.
So, guys, this is the difference between some other third-party app that has an integration with HubSpot versus an app that was built for HubSpot, right? Because, like, in another world, this is not as simple as, oh, inside that app, there's like literally just a button that just creates the HubSpot task when this happens. No, it's like you got to send the data in as properties, and then you got to go build convoluted like workflows and stuff that's triggered off of those properties and circumstances and all this kind of stuff. Where it's no, this app is literally kind of built to talk to HubSpot and work within the confines of HubSpot and operate in HubSpot. And that's why this kind of stuff becomes trivially easy, right?
Yep.
When you're using an app like Arrows. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Sweet. Awesome. I think we got through them all. Note that last question there is you can associate speakers to contacts. You can associate sponsors to companies. You can also create additional associations with any other objects, because you got to remember, we're just using HubSpot objects, which means if you want to have that contact associated with a speaker, you can. And that might help you, for example, like automatically send emails to the speaker that are powered by HubSpot workflows. So a lot of different ways that you can kind of like rewire your data structure to work in a nuanced way you need it to, for example. So we just completed the Q&A. Amazing Q&A, if I do say so myself. So guys, I always feel so corporate saying these are the key takeaways. Right? You know what? There are some key takeaways. Let's be honest here, right? Asset collection. It's a breeze. It's super easy. You can automatically easily meet your deadlines. You don't have to go on any wild goose chases, nor do you have to set up anything that chases the goose. And HubSpot, it becomes your event HQ, especially when it comes to the planning and the process of actually getting the event going, getting your speakers collected, getting your sponsors taken care of, and making it all happen. And when you put Arrows and Event Happily together, it just becomes a lot easier. I've been Max Cohen. I still am Max Cohen. I'll always be Max Cohen. Kim, thank you so much for joining us. How can people reach you, get in touch with you, all that good stuff? And if they're interested in the Arrows, who should they be talking to?
Yeah, you can book a demo on our website. So arrows.to is our website. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, so you can always message me there and I can get you set up with someone to chat with.
And if anyone here is interested in Event Happily and you want to maybe get a little demo and see what it's all about, feel free to reach out to Joe St. Germain. He's our sales guy extraordinaire, and he can give you a demo of anything you need, or just shoot us a DM on LinkedIn, whatever it is. We're here to help. But thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. And Kim, thank you so much for sharing your time with us today. That was
so much fun. Loved it.
That was a fun one. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everybody watching home. Have an awesome rest of your week.